You know, every time Kilohearts comes out with something new, I'm always extremely excited because not only is it a new, essentially plugin on its own, but it also fits into the ecosystem of Faceplant, Multipass, and Snapheap respectively. The last time we reviewed something, I believe, was for 2.0, and we got wavetable LFOs, we got all kinds of other upgrades. The biggest one, I think, was Snapheap and Multipass within Snapheap and Multipass and Faceplant, and it's super awesome, and it just keeps getting better. So right now we are looking at the ShaperTable, and what amazing timing for this to be released, especially when Trash from Isotope just came in, and as you all know, I'm extremely disappointed in that. We can talk about that in another video, but I do want to talk about what is so cool about the Shaper and the ShaperTable, which is basically LFOs as distortion units. It has its own built-in LFO maker, wavetable maker. And the reason why this is significant is because whatever you make in here can be applied to a wavetable inside of the generator, can also be applied to an LFO table. And so all of these waveforms that you're making that can morph and change and whatnot over time can all be used simultaneously within the same ecosystem. Like, that's incredible. So what does this thing sound like? Well, let's go ahead and take a listen. Right now I have a fold back thing and a little bit of drive going on, and this is just a sine wave. So if I turn this on with a little bit of drive, we had some detuning going on. And if I turn on a little bit of movement here, kind of like so, then we get something kind of like this. Now you may not have noticed, but we also have another extremely welcome upgrade. Serum and Vital users are going to love this, but you don't actually have to open this window in order to make your modulation curves anymore. And not only that, but we also have double clicking in order for you to make points. If you hold Command on a Mac, then you can create steps, kind of like so. And this is just incredibly handy for anything that you do regarding making any kind of shapes and modulation of the sort. So that's super awesome. You do still have to open up the modulation window if you're making a wavetable, but this is a wavetable maker. This is just standard modulation. So the ShaperTable itself is pretty awesome. It has quite a few features that's built into it that actually changes the sound quite dramatically. So if I were to just turn this off in general, something that you'll notice is that we have the table itself, which can be modulated. We have the phase, which all three of these things right here are actually very important to what's happening to the signal. And I know that this is a basic sound, but even when I did the Trash video, people were like, well, you could have done a much better demonstration. But if you use a simple waveform, then you can hear what is being applied or changed to the sound in general. Because if I just use something that's a really noisy waveform, then all we're going to hear is noise. But when we have simple waveforms, kind of like so, it makes it a little bit easier to work with, and you can actually hear the difference. You can hear the change from... See what I'm saying? So when we're working with something like this, from what I understand, or at least the way that this is working, you can see here that this is actually only focusing on the middle part of the waveform. And so by changing the bias, changing the phase, and then also adjusting the smooth, we can get different reactions with how this distortion works. Essentially 4 different dimensions of distortion. It's pretty freaking cool. So check this out. That is so much movement just within a single device, and that just is just freaking awesome. It is so cool. And the other thing too, especially in regards to comparison to the other distortion things. So for example, like this isn't technically the first time that this has been done. This is the first plugin that I know of that you can make your own wavetables. Blias wavetable distortion might have been one, but I don't remember whether or not you could make your own, so don't quote me on that. But Thermal was cool, but you couldn't make your own tables. Rift, super awesome, but you can't make your own tables. Trash, throw it in the trash. Don't buy that thing. Call me a hater, call me what you want. I'm somebody that uses distortion every single time I open the DAW. So I'm not going to say I'm a distortion connoisseur, but I mean, I listen to these plugins quite a bit, and this by far takes the cake. It's incredible. And I love the fact that I can import my own wavetables. I love that I can just use this to make my own wavetable, which is really cool. I still am hopeful at some point, I don't think it's ever going to happen, but a standalone version of Kilohearts, so I can literally just sit in here and sound design all day, because this is practically a DAW. But this is a major addition for me, especially for somebody that designs bass, someone that designs like really heavy drums, percussion, all that stuff. And I can't wait to see what's going to happen whenever I start making my Requiem style patches. If you don't know what those are, they kind of look like this, to where I've got all different kinds of sounds and scapes all within a single patch. So I have not made any patches like this yet. I haven't had time. I have been part of the beta, but I honestly haven't had much time to even mess with this kind of stuff because I've been busy working on other projects. But now that I have that, you know, we can take something that sounds kind of like this. Let me make sure that this is correct. Turn on the detuning, turn on the bassy, and we can start playing with distortion tables and stuff with sounds like this. So if we open up the filter racks and whatnot that we have, which I don't want to go too much further into this, but what's it called? We can open this guy up, which I believe is the filter. There we go. And imagine replacing all of this stuff, which let's go ahead and just do that with different, let me see if I'm modulating anything. So nope, let's go ahead and add a shaper table. And this is also a great opportunity to show the other free plugin if you already have any kind of the Kilohearts stuff, which is the regular shaper, which is also awesome. Just the fact that they included a customizable wave shaper like this is also a really big deal, because even though I really like the distortion units that are available, whether it be the, I guess just the distortion device that has all of the separate algorithms, or also a way that you can add distortion. There's a lot of different ways, guys, but just the obvious ones are adding the nonlinear filter. So if you just pull off of this and just use this as distortion, that's something that you could have done as well. Boosting and EQ, all different kinds of stuff to add frequencies and whatnot, but this can actually control the loud and quiet parts of the sound and move independently, which is pretty awesome. So even though it's not a table, this is totally available and something that you can make yourself in which to create something unique. So I don't know what this is going to sound like, but let's see if this sounds any more aggressive compared to what we had with just the regular distortion. Oh yeah, it's already way louder. Now the thing is that I know this sound, you all don't, so you probably can't even tell what's happening, which again is why it's really important to go to basic waveforms. But I'm actually really excited about this because I'm getting really sick artifacts that are going to be really good for other use cases outside of just bass. Like the bass stuff is really cool, don't get me wrong, but little tiny hits and blips, kind of like this, I want to say. Yeah, super cool. Yeah, lots of really neat stuff. So this is awesome. I think that this was a major thing that I felt personally like Faceplant was missing. They went above and beyond, in my opinion, to be honest, because the shaper table in itself has so much cool, unique ways of adding harmonics and adding basically like frequency content that when you start stacking these and you provide modulation, you can essentially make a growl bass, but it doesn't feel like FM. It doesn't feel like AM. It doesn't feel like anything that I've used from before, even if the process is relatively similar, so to speak. Now, one other feature that I forgot to mention is that there's an overflow. And what this basically means to me is just basically different warp modes, which you have a choice of 3. Hold is, it is where it is. Then you have something like mirror. So you'll see that as we introduce this and we add more drive, it's going to start adding a mirror almost like a sync. And then with the repeat, you can see that, sorry, the mirror basically flips it, my bad. And then the repeat makes it seem like a sync. So that'll create faster waveforms that you'll find in between. So if we have just a regular old thing, oh man. I mean, if you take that just with a filter and we maybe perhaps just do like very basic movement with this, so maybe something kind of like that, and add in just a little bit of a bandpass to this and add some of this. Maybe on the other side. Like, there's so many different cool ways to color this. I want to pull a limiter over this. And then we can start to change this over time and create different versions of this. Heck, it might even be cool to set this on a random and just kind of flip this. Maybe set this to be a little bit faster and then do another one to where now we're going to start flipping the bias. And this is just purely for timbre and making different kinds of sounds and stuff, but there's so many cool ways to mess with this. Okay, so now we just add some OTT over that, and then let's see what that sounds like. I mean, this is a sine wave, two wave taper shape, two shaper tables, tapered shables, and geez, we can just add in basically an OTT. Like that sound, oh my gosh, that was so cool. Just that little cute little whoomp, you know, is really cool. And also it's relatively unpredictable, at least as of now, because it's new, about how this is going to behave in reaction to other stuff. Because the thing with this, and I'll wrap up the video with just talking about this, is that a typical wave shaper, as far as my understanding goes, and somebody can feel free to chime in on the conversation, because I'm hoping to have something more of that as opposed to, you know, I don't know, some kind of argument or whatever. But generally speaking, within this, I want to say that as far as what I've been taught, that the quiet parts, the quiet dynamics of the sound is over on the left and the loud dynamics is over on the right. So when you have, you know, either a symmetrical or asymmetrical or whatever table that's kind of happening over here and it's doing all kinds of weird wonky stuff, if you're sending a signal through that is kind of crazy but like not insane, but you have different weird things and artifacts that are quiet but also something that you can pull up, and this is why we use OTT a lot, because we bring something that's really quiet all the way up to 0. You can look up the Doom compressor for more information on that. Shout out to Zane and Cage for peeping me on that. But when you do that, you're focusing on pulling out the quiet parts of the sound this way. And then with this, you can focus on controlling the loud parts of the sound. And again, forgive me, because I don't know what side is what side. I think it's quiet to loud. But you're constantly shaping the dynamics and then adding distortion to that. And the fact that you have, in one case or another, either this one or this one, it's really neat to see how you can kind of dynamically and seamlessly transition in between those. And it's not like an OTT, because OTT is time-based. And I wouldn't necessarily call an OTT distortion anyways, although it can kind of make it seem like that. But because this is all frequency based, if you're combining all the elements of the movement of a shaper table along with the movement of a wavetable in itself, and then adding a wavetable for modulation or doing whatever modulation you have within Kilohearts, it gets pretty freaking insane. And the fact that this is a snap-in, you can use this on the outside of anything else. You can use it inside of the racks that are built in. Like, you guys, I've been covering Kilohearts for like 5 years, and I just can't think of a better synth that is anywhere near close to what this offers with how much accessibility, efficiency, and flexibility it has to offer. One thing that I would love, just because I've maxed this out, is that I've actually ran out of modulators. And Kilohearts, if you all see this, you guys are the best. I freaking love you. I would love the ability to hot swap modulators. So if I could right click and instead of this be an envelope, transform it into an LFO without having to lose my modulation, that would be incredible. One thing that you can do just for you all in order to kind of save yourself some time is you can map something to a macro, say this guy, and then what you can do is you can assign in any modulation that you want to here. And if you want to hot swap it, you can say, okay, well, I don't want an envelope on here. I want to change this into an LFO or an LFO table, and then you can just modulate the macro. So this begins to host everything, and you can like do cross modulation where it can go to an LFO or to another LFO in case if you run out of mod slots, but it should be fine, especially for 99% of what most sound designers are doing. If you are serious about sound design, if you are sound engineer for games, or you are really trying to get an edge on I don't know, just your production in general, you guys see me, all of my music, phase plan, all my basses, phase plan. 99% of my production, well, now the stuff that I do is I just make riffs out of anything, but if I'm going to sit down and design a patch, phase plan, it's my go-to. They did not sponsor me. They did provide me a review copy, a ShaperTable, and I asked them, and who wouldn't? Because this is the best distortion unit to come out in a really long time. But what can you say? So let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you're going to be picking up ShaperTable. It's $20 right now on their website. That's a steal. This is a good deal. I can tell you that. For what it does and what it offers, you're going to get a lot out of it. I'll say that much. So anyways, enjoy it. Please be sure to like the video. Check out alckemy.com if you're interested in the presets that I've shown you today. And let's get to making some cool sounds on stream tomorrow.